Now, qualifying wouldn't be qualifying without Peter Windsor and his friends. Peter, which friend have you brought along this week?
Well, yes, a different motorhome again, this time at Asiatech, where I'm very pleased to say that it's not all Asian. I'm not a brilliant fan of Asian food. There's still a bit of French influence here, and I think that shows in the delicious cuisine. But let me introduce our guests. We have John Gano, who's the president of Asiatech, and although he speaks with an American accent, John, you actually speak fluent Japanese, is that not correct?
That's right, that was my native language.
Very impressive. And in the middle, I'm sure needs no introduction, Mr. Bernard Ecclestone. I know Bernie's time is very short, but privileged to have you with us today, Bernie.
And only speaks English.
And next to him, Paul Stoddart, of course, owner of the Minardi team. So we have a very mixed bunch here. We have America, Japan, we have England, and of course we have Australia. But I think the first point of discussion is this new design here at Monza. Bernie, what do you think of that podium? What do you think about the whole redesign of the pit complex?
It's good,
there?
it's different. It does all the things we want. No, it's very, very good.
Paul?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you know, it's great to see the tracks are improving and the facilities are improving, and, you know, digital coverage is great, so we're happy.
I was talking to Flavio Briatore yesterday, as an Italian connoisseur of taste. He said that he wasn't exactly sure about the shape of that new podium. Anybody got any thoughts about that?
He's the only person, I mean, he's never said that to me, but it's the only criticism I've heard, if that is criticism. He said he wasn't sure.
Well, when I said, what are you not sure about, he couldn't really say much more than that. The implication was he had to be convinced that it was, and I said, well, you're Italian, and this whole thing's Italian in its design, and he seemed to be fairly...
I guarantee you, if he was on the podium, there'd be no complaints at all, so no problems.
Well, I think the great thing is going to be the sight of the drivers walking out on that walkway after the race, and imagine what the crowd are going to be like there. Anyway, nice to be down here at Asiatech, John. What's life like for you? I won't say this end of the paddock, but what's life been like for you this past year?
Well, we've been hard at work for 2 years in Formula One. We've been doing not only our engine, but working a bit on the chassis side, coming up with our own design. It's been great working with Paul and Minardi this year. Our teams have clicked. The crew's working together very tightly.
And if I can interrupt, you've had great reliability too, have you not?
Yes, yes.
We really have. I mean, we started off the year in Melbourne, which I think is a day that I certainly will never forget, and John was equally as ecstatic at the time, and we have had solid reliability right throughout the year, and you know, it's been good to see.
Yeah, Paul and I agree that our favourite circuit is Melbourne.
Yeah, that.
Bernie,
it's also nice that we've got an engine supplier in Formula One that's there to try and help teams in Formula One, as opposed to a manufacturer that's there for obvious reasons.
That's right, and I was also going to say, there's a lot of talk at the moment, probably not justified, that Formula One is boring because Ferrari are winning races, because Michael's winning a lot of races. How important is the back end of the grid, if I can put it that way, Bernie, to you and to the industry?
Well, you know, I think what people don't really understand, and it's quite strange for that, there's normally going to be one winner and somebody's going to be at the back, and that's how it is. In fact, if there's 20 cars, there's going to be 19 that aren't going to be winners. So it's just as important for somebody to be 17th or 10th or 12th as it is for somebody to win. And I mean, the problem, it's nothing to do with being boring. It's people mustn't look at the World Championship as the race. Each race is individual. It happens that the results of each race is the World Championship.
Just to second that, I mean, how could you positively say that Melbourne was boring? I mean, when fifth place caused the whole country to stand up and take notice.
Exactly.
When the race leader for the last 5 laps was looking at the big screens as he went round to see whether or not the Minardi was still running.
I think our friend here wants to just take some orders. Very nice. Bernie, you going to have some steak, or you're too much of a hurry?
I'm a working boy.
I'll have bien cuit pour me.
One thing we've discovered, it's been our pleasure to...
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been our pleasure to discover that besides making good racing engines, the French do know how to cook.
One final
It's a matter
point.
of opinion, isn't it?
One final point, because I know you have to go. Of course, things will change. In 2004, we have a completely new engine regulation, and that's something you're working for at the moment. And do you think, Bernie, that will change the face of Grand Prix racing in terms of changing the way teams approach their engine program?
At the moment, there's some sort of discussion as to whether or not that's going to stick or not. You know, there's a lot of opposition against one engine for the weekend. It's not. People say it's not Formula One, and they want a bit more freedom. But I suppose in the end, it's probably a good idea, because the public don't really know how many engines somebody uses, whether they use 4 or 3 or 2 or 1, and they probably don't care either.
I think
mixing the grids up when you blow an engine and go back 10 places or whatever. I think that'd be quite interesting.
It would be fun, wouldn't it?
Technically, we're prepared for either way, to continue with the regulation or change them.
And here's one more thing, I can't resist it, but what if we were to do a similar thing with tyres? I already rang this around Eddie Jordan, and just in a perfect world, we just had the same tyres for everybody. Do you think that would be a good thing?
You've been around a few years, haven't you? But we used to do that.
I know, but if
There've
we
been
could go
periods
back
when
to
it
that.
had. I mean, at the moment we've gone through a funny period because we've had Bridgestone been with Ferrari a long time and engineered their tyres around Ferrari, even though they supplied everybody else. And now they are strictly only Ferrari, and you've got Michelin trying to supply the other competitive teams, so it's been difficult for them. I mean, they have to make a compromise tyre that suits the other teams, whereas Bridgestone are fortunate enough to concentrate on Ferrari. So I think that will eventually get itself sorted out.
Well, let's hope so, and thank you to all. Thank you to our host and to our guests. Back to you, Damon, and we'll get on with our lunch and our wine, I think. Thank you very much.
Never mind, back to Damon. We'll be back for live coverage of you paying the bill, Peter, when that fat bloke with the moustache pops back again. It was a very interesting part of that interview.